It feels like I'm about to start swimming out here in the woods of Maryland. So, well, lots of bad news, even more bad news. Let's start with the Johnson & Johnson things. This is just the kudos to Catherine and Janet. I actually somehow missed this. Apparently that's just gotten into the media yesterday. So I'm putting an NPR article there if anybody's interested. So it looks like 60 severe cases of thrombosis or clots of something called TTS, which is a very bizarre, rare blood-forming condition. Clot-forming condition, 9 deaths out of 18 million shots. So 1 death per 2 million. For whatever it's worth, FDA basically halting indiscriminate use of this vaccine, only going to be used for scenarios where I guess other vaccines are contraindicated. Now, what to do if you got the Johnson & Johnson? Well, I don't think you should be doing anything. And I don't think you should be worrying because apparently most of those 60 cases appeared within 2 weeks or 3 weeks after the shot. It's extremely unlikely if you had a shot months ago that somehow you will develop this condition. Should you be somehow concerned and observant of certain symptoms? I think the answer is yes. I would be carefully observing. You may want to mention to your doc, just in case doc doesn't know, but I don't think that's necessarily needs to change your specific management. Okay. Issue number 2, you probably unfortunately have seen that the WHO, World Health Organization, just stated that the actual mortality related to COVID is dramatically higher than previously thought. I'm putting the link to the actual WHO website there that describes this. So it's a 14.9, basically 15 million excess deaths associated with COVID since the pandemic, since 2020 and in 2020 and 2021. And this has more to do with now a better way of assessing indirect effects. So let's say somebody got sick and they recovered from the COVID, so they didn't die from COVID, but as a result of the COVID, they had something triggered, or they had some complication of some other illness that occurred. So now that we have a better way of looking at the data, it looks like this effect is pretty scary and pretty massive. So those are I just thought that let me get rid of the bad news off the bat. So now unfortunately, they're also stating that the countries or continents that are mostly affected by this are Southeast Asia, Europe, and us, Americas. And so basically there's some 68% of excess deaths that concentrate in just 10 countries globally, and the US is one of the largest chunk of that pie of increased mortality. You know, and it's my prediction that because of that, we're going to lose upwards of 2 years of life expectancy in the next 2 or 3 years. Let me give you a sense of comparison. It took US decade to cross 1 extra year. I mean, it's that slow. So we're going to be setting ourselves back about 2 decades in terms of life expectancy because of COVID. Now, how quickly is it going to bounce back? I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of unknown details, but I think it's not necessarily relevant to us talking today in the room, but I think it is important to have a grasp of the magnitude overall. I think it's valuable numbers to keep in the back of our minds. I mean, we were already doing horrible compared to the rest of developed nations, so we are somewhere between 3 to 5 years behind places like Korea, Israel, France. Now, it's probably going to set us back even more than those countries because they've, for a variety of reasons, they've had different mortality associated with COVID. So that's that. Okay, and then the last was a Judy's question about, so is there data on particularities of differences between the new variant that is called BA.2121, so BA.2.12.1 versus the first one, which was BA1 and then BA2. So this BA 0.2, 0.1, 2.1, what sometimes people now called all of this 2 variants or stealth Omicrons. Basically, it appears that they're more contagious and they're more, they getting around the vaccine. So chances are, in retrospect, this is what I had. And I did a little bit of search because Jody asked a very particular question. Is there a difference in clinical presentation, symptomatology, as well as severity? I'm putting something in the chat there again, and you're going to see that there's it's a US News article, but halfway down there, you'll see the WHO statement that basically says there's no evidence to think that there's a clinical differences in manifestation of 2121 versus 2. I'm not sure what they're basing that. From my sense, there are differences. 212 seems to have more of neurologic symptoms associated with it. But I think it's a speculation until we get more data. Part of the issue is obvious, right? There's just not enough cases yet. And remember, the data is always going to be lagging at least a couple of weeks because it takes a little bit of time to get everything compiled before you can report this back as something reasonably controlled or evidence-based compared to the other groups. So, wow, I'm done everything in 11 minutes. Pretty impressive. All right, let's go to questions because that's all that I had to cover today. I was going to talk about long COVID today, but I don't know if we're going to have time. So I kind of instead switched to this. But I will put in the chat, Ashley, and now I have 2 last names to try to pronounce them correctly. I'm not going to try. You guys can read her last name or so. Okay. It is perfect. I can't say French names. It's all right.
Repo.
Yeah, I'm not. Right. So this is the YouTube link. So take a look. It's about a half an hour length of kind of talking about her journey, talking about how she's going to work with us. She's talking a little bit about the resiliency and well-being office. So it's kind of, I think it's a good interview. And, you know, she'll be back. So I think what we'll do is I'm guessing it will be early June or maybe mid-June. We'll do an open house on long COVID on Saturday, the way we did it before. So we'll give you guys all heads up when that's going to happen. Okay, questions. How does this data compare to AstraZeneca, better or worse? I don't know. I've learned about Johnson & Johnson 10 minutes ago or 20 minutes ago. I have not compared. I think AstraZeneca is still given widely in Europe. It's my understanding. I don't think anybody limited its use, right? You guys contribute, please. You probably read on this more than I have. Okay, will Omicron okay, this is a great question. So I was quite excited, and you may remember a few weeks ago I talked about some of you may want to wait until fall to get the Omicron specific vaccine. Now I'm getting really concerned because there's so much more data coming out that the virus seems to continue to mutate. I'm guessing that what the Pfizer was working is on the first BA1. So they may not even, so they may, by the time they design it, it may not actually, we may not have any BA1. It may all be BA1, 2, or whatever, 1, 3, or 1, 4, or God knows what. And so this is starting to potentially resemble the whole flu situation. This catch-up game that's never going to be up to date. Now, it's possible that even not very up-to-date one will be sufficient to semi-protect against the transmission, but as of now, my enthusiasm that quote-unquote Omicron specific vaccine is going to be truly specific enough to be effective to sterilize against the virus, meaning so you don't get it at all. I don't think we're looking at that at all, period. And then you need to ask the question, well, if that's the case, then who cares whether you get the newest one or the oldest one? If they're all protected against serious illness, then who cares? That's exactly the point. If the next update will not be able to start decreasing transmission the way we were hoping, then it's almost irrelevant in that sense. Although the question then would become, how often will we need to be vaccinated? What would the frequency of vaccines should be? From current most obvious. What I can tell you is every 6 months. What will happen further down? Don't know. Not really sure. Not really sure if we have a couple of shots, will the actual length of coverage start increasing over time? I mean, you can speculate on all of this as much as you want or as little as you want. I don't think it's going to change the fact that it's not really clear. So, yeah. So, yeah. So, Elle, is this enough of your question? I hope it is. All right, he's not unmuting himself. Okay, so any highlights real long COVID? Well, so I think the highlights, they're a couple. First of all, thanks Dr. Demarco for sending me an article saying that upwards of 90% of people who had COVID have heart inflammation. We used to think it was 70%. Now that data changed to much higher. I will tell you on my own example, I definitely felt not the same cardiac function for quite a while after. And even now, I get episodic sudden shifts that I feel like, well, that's bizarre. Like my stamina is usually way better. So I would say chances are over the next few months, we're going to discover a lot more long-term consequences that are going to be dealt with for the decades to come, not for years. So what does it translate? What does it translate to is that I still feel strongly everybody should try to minimize risk of exposure, because it feels like no reason to try to just get sick. All of those COVID parties, total baloney. Because I think given this high chance of potentially some long COVID consequences, I think the goal should be try to delay catching as much as you can, because if we're saying it's inevitable, then maybe with time, we're going to have a better management strategies going forward. And treat aggressively. So even mild cases, treat aggressively. That's my main lesson. So my main effort, if there's any kind of a big deal point, no matter how mild your symptoms are, treat it most aggressively that's in your capacity. Take all the vitamins, sleep the most, like try to be them as supportive as you can. That's basically, I think, the lesson number one. UV shield, don't hear anything about it, don't even know. If you have a link, Ms. Smith, put it in. I don't know what that is. Wasn't there something I promised last week and now I forgot? Oh boy. I feel like I promised something, now I forgot, but anyway. If it becomes an annual recommendation, do you think they would put the flu vaccine in COVID? Probably, makes a lot of sense. I mean, look, if we're going to have twice a year, then obviously flu shot is only once a year, but I would expect that they're going to start doing that sooner or later. The only caveat is actually, hold off a second. So flu shots at the moment are all non-mRNA. So I don't know if those can be mixed together. So I don't know. And I would not expect that flu vaccine technology change overnight. So probably the answer to that is not yet. They'll probably be given separately for a while. Yep, more shots we get, more side effects. Unfortunately, that's very true. How we protect our hearts? Great question. In anti-inflammatory foods, good vitamin D level. I'm a big fan of vitamin K2. We've talked a little bit about it. Always take K2 with D3. Especially if your D3 dose is high. Try to get your K2 to at least 50 micrograms of a day if you're taking MK7. Don't worry about MK4, those of you who are very savvy. MK4 is hard to find and it's much more expensive. The original data of all the K2 is on MK4, but there's more data coming out on MK7. MK7 is really good for bones and the heart and the muscles, regular cardiac, non-cardiac muscles. So I would say those are really important. CoQ10, especially if you take statins, you should be taking the CoQ10 because you don't want to, you want to try to sort of give heart as much support, and then make sure you're quite good with magnesium, that you have a good relationship with magnesium. Make sure you don't become magnesium depleted. If you don't know, if you don't take any magnesium, it's a good idea to ask yourself, do you ever have eyelid twitching or kind of spasms of any kind, or constipation? Those could be a subtle deficiency of magnesium signs. So those are some of the big things heart related. Okay, what about Paxlovid mouth? Just Paxlovid mouth? Described in yesterday Atlantic. I don't know what Paxlovid mouth is. It's probably a typo. I don't know. I didn't see the article. I'm not sure I'll have time to review it now. It's seemingly like I'm always catching up on all this. Let's see what that shows. Paxlovid mouth is real and gross. Ooh, I imagine. So this wasn't a typo. This is an actual Paxlovid mouth. So it's a side effect, I'm assuming. 5.6% of patients report an altered sense of taste with the drug. But this were mild, and it looks like they were self-resolving. So, interesting. Thanks for pointing that out. Everybody take a look when you have a second if you're interested. Not really clear exactly who is at the high risk, but 5% is 1 in 20. It's pretty significant. It sounds like it feels like different things, but could feel like metal salts, etc. Okay, great. Thanks for that. Okay. When you say treat aggressively, can you? Yeah. So we've talked about this many times. What we do, there's a whole list of recommendations. You want to optimize your vitamin D. You want to take vitamin C. You want to take zinc. You want to take some form of NAD. Or NAD stimulatory molecule, like whether it's nicotinamide riboside or the NAD itself. NAD plus gold is what Mark Hyman recommends. And acetylcysteine or NAC. You want to sleep extra. You want to make sure you're hydrated very well. If you're in any risk category, do consider Paxlovid, even if you're feeling reasonably okay. So this is just kind of running quickly through that protocol. If there's significant interest, maybe in an upcoming week or two, we'll revisit the whole protocol again. Can I see some show of hands, roughly, who would be voting to be wanting to see that? Because I don't want to just do it without, well, so far only one hand. No, there are a couple, 2, 3, 4. All right, 5, all right, good enough. All right, so we'll do that. In a couple of weeks, I'll do that. I'll basically come back and we'll review the whole protocol again.
Can I say something?
Sure you can.
It was too much to check.
For you, dear. How can I say no? All right, go ahead.
I've been doing the list. You know, you gave us the list. I've been doing the list like every day.
Wait,
so,
why are you doing every list? You're not sick. I can't let you.
The vitamin, trying to get more sleep. I've been trying to walk, 4 miles a day, all this stuff, just to keep the immune high.
Perfect.
So what is more aggressive for me? When you say more.
Right. So you don't need to take like an acetylcysteine, you don't need to take. High dose of zinc, you don't need to take. High dose vitamin C, you don't need to take. You can just take some basic maintenance doses. You don't need to take NAD unless you're actually sick. Like prophylactically, you don't need to take those things. So there's a difference between taking massive doses. Like when you get sick, you should probably take somewhere between 3 to 5 or 6 grams of vitamin C a day in divided doses. You may want to take 100 milligrams of zinc. So it's really more about dosing. So if you're taking like some kind of a good multivitamin that has 20 or 30 milligrams of zinc with some 300 or 500 milligrams of C spread out throughout the day, that's more than enough for basic support. It's a dose when you acutely get ill that you have to take a lot more, because especially when you're so metabolically active and you're fighting the virus, you have to have those extra nutrients in.
But aren't we kind of fighting every time we go out in the street? I mean, we're fighting the virus to get it.
Not really. No.
In us.
No. I mean, you're not necessarily, you're fighting it correctly. So if you get exposed, then you'll probably most likely been exposed multiple times, as you point out, and you'll clear it, no problem. It's really when the inflammatory response and an actual multiplication of the virus begins inside of you, then becomes a difference.
Oh.
kicking it out very quickly within a few hours because somebody coughed on you and not having symptoms is very different from developing an inflammatory response. Point being here is this: no matter how mild that inflammatory response is, it appears to have a possibility of long COVID. That is the problem. The problem is that no matter how mild those symptoms are, they seemingly linked to the higher risk of long-term consequences. That's why I'm saying you got to go all in, because we don't know. Like if I'd have some kind of test that would say, oh, this person's going to recover, no problem, but this person, yeah, we don't have that test. So we basically trying to say everybody should be taking everything. So, you know, all right. I know it may not be the best answer you wanted to hear. There are some personal questions. I don't know if you guys mean for me to answer this in public or individually. Gina, let me know if you want that to be answered openly or not. Evershield is an AstraZeneca product that is given to immune-compromised. I'm gonna have to learn about this. But
yes, you can answer openly. This is Gina.
okay, good. And Carrie, is that only available in Europe? If it's just available in Europe, I'm not sure I won't talk about it. We have enough going on here, and I'm not sure I won't talk about something we don't have access for. Just saying, I'm open to look it up, but I'm just pointing that out.
EvoShield is available in the United States. Apparently there are 850,000 dosages available, given what the Biden administration said. What I'm trying to say is that it is for immune compromised individuals. I did get it last week, and it is to prevent COVID from getting in. It is injected into your buttocks, and I'm trying to also make other people aware of it that might have a problem. I have B memory cell issues. I told somebody that has a liver transplant, and their liver doctor at Penn recommended that they get it. I think what I'm trying to have.
So it's different from Paxlovid, which is to be used as an acute treatment.
Right.
All right.
This is prior.
Well, so given that interest, I will come back to everybody on this next week, and we'll take care of this. We'll talk more.
I'd like your thoughts on it.
If you have an article, send it to me.
I will. It was in the New York Times. I just can't pull up the link right now, and other things. So it's something that is out there. Unfortunately, I think the problem has been that no one's clear who should get it, how to evaluate who in the first 850,000 should get it. So doctors are sitting on it.
Right. Okay, let me go back to Gina's question. 80-year-old father has been exposed to COVID. His wife was diagnosed 2 days ago. Father is negative with at-home test, but has progressively become symptomatic. He's positive. It doesn't matter what test shows. You just have to assume in this situation you're positive, period. Like, there's no point really trying to figure this one out. It's just, especially if he's mild, just start that most aggressive support that he's willing to take. So single boosted hypertensive, you say treating it. Yep, treat aggressively. Yep, I would say include Paxlovid for him, for 80-year-old, for sure. Include that, include all those other supplements we talked about.
Okay.
So there's no question. Like this is my father's story. It looks exactly the same. So definitely would do max at this point for something like this. Okay, then there's a really good question. I only have 2 minutes, so I'm going to wrap up. So Kathy's asking good questions. So should you be taking additional nutrients after COVID? I am now. So I would continue that aggressive protocol at an extra D, extra C, extra zinc for at least probably a month, if not longer. I guess the precise length is quite out individual, but I'd probably say until you feel a lot better. Keep taking extra doses of all the core nutrients. That also includes, and I was taking a NAC at about 2 grams a day for at least a month. But part of my complication has always been since childhood. My cough almost instantly goes into bronchitis for a month or two. so you need to also know a little bit your own physiology. Like I had to take more NAC because it just helps for me. You know, if you have other problems, you may need to take something else. Like I had all those memory issues, so I was taking a whole bunch of extra memory support. Like I was taking something called Huperazine A. I was taking Bacopa, ashwagandha. I was taking extra high dose resveratrol. Like I was taking a whole bunch of stuff until I felt that, okay, I'm kind of at the baseline. You know, is this all placebo? Maybe. I'm going to be fully transparent with you. I mean, I know some of this nutrients are evidence, but we have no idea what's going on post-COVID. I mean, there may be evidence for Alzheimer's. It doesn't mean that there's evidence for post-COVID. So, you know, doing all this is there probably is some placebo component to that. But at the same time, you know, like if you're taking this in a controlled fashion, you're not taking some insane doses of some weird supplement and you know the quality of brands and everything, chances are you're not really effectively putting yourself to any risks. So Coq10 dosages, if you're taking statins, if you're over 65, take something called ubiquinol and take about 100 milligrams, at least 50. I'll put that in the chat. If you're younger, you can take any dose of, Coq10, including ubiquinol. Conversion seems to be fine. And then you would want to take double the dose, so 100 to 200 milligrams. Ubiquinol is about twice more effective conversion-wise, and it seems to be more of issue with when somebody gets older, they don't convert as well. So that's really the crux of it. Yeah, I think 75 with 10 of statin is totally fine. Well, actually, I need to know what statin. If it's a Crestor, it's a pretty high dose. If it's a Zocor, simvastatin, it's a low dose, and then 75 is fine. All right, I'm going to wrap up. Patricia, if you have that more specific, message me, okay, individually. But I want to make sure that my favorite Reiki practitioner is here. Where is she? Where's Catherine?
I know. I don't know. I looked up top, and she seems to be gone.
Whoops.
So
I have to entertain you?
Yes, you do.
Jesus. All right. I wasn't prepared for it, but.
Okay, here she is. She's back. She's back.
There we go. All right. Well, Catherine, as usual, such a pleasure. You've been such a bright light in this meetings and just in general. Maybe give us a little update about what's going on. I know you and Mara, you guys been quite busy. So, but yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that, everyone. My computer decided to restart just as I was supposed to go on. So, so glad to be here with you all again. I mean, Mara and I have been really busy. I mean, I would say mostly with, you know, Reiki. We're working to do more in the local community as well. So for some in-person events that are happening in the Delray area. We've also been kind of meeting within our smaller community, sending Reiki to the situation that's happening in Ukraine, to other things that people have requested us sending Reiki for, and also working to volunteer with organizations like Friends of the Guest House, which is for women who were formerly incarcerated and are reintegrating back into society. So lots of different ways that we're trying, and you know, our community really wants to give back to the larger community, which is wonderful. And then still teaching Reiki classes, and you know, more and more people have been discovering Reiki or finding out about Reiki and wanting to learn more. So it's nice that we've been able to do that, especially virtually, even throughout the pandemic. But today I will be leading the kind of the mind-body experience. So I invite you all to come to a comfortable seated position, or if you would prefer to be reclined or lay down, whatever position is most comfortable for you. If you also want to move your chair or your seat to perhaps even face the window. I know it's dreary here, but if you want to face some sunlight and not stand in front of or sit in front of a screen, you're welcome to do that as well. I also invite you to put on any calming, relaxing music that you enjoy most, if that is something that will just help add to your experience today. Wherever you are, whether you're getting settled or you're already settled, I invite you, once you're settled, I invite you to close your eyes or hold a soft gaze forward. Let's collectively take a deep breath in through the nose. Exhale, just sigh it out. I see Jennifer's looking at her neighbor's blooming azaleas. What a beautiful sight, even with the rain, right? And we need this rain. With rain comes life. You look at it that way, this is a wonderful gift. And again, taking a deep breath in through the nose. Exhale, sigh it out. Imagine just breathing out, sighing out your day, out your morning. And once again, deep breath in through the nose. Breathing it out through the mouth. Imagine releasing anything you no longer need, any heaviness, any weight, any gunk, letting it go. And tuning into your breath. Observing and noticing your belly as you breathe in and breathe out. Notice the belly expand. Notice the belly contract. Notice expansion as you take in oxygen, life-giving oxygen, and contract, releasing on your exhalation anything you no longer need. I invite you to continue this a few more times, 3 more rounds of breath, just noticing and observing. Perhaps becoming a friend with your breath as it moves through its process. And we'll move now into the 4-7-8 breathing practice. You'll still be using your belly breath. I invite you, if it's comfortable for you, to place one hand on your belly, the other hand on your chest. And breathe in for 4 counts, taking in breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold your breath here for 7 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And exhaling out. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll repeat this 3 more times. I invite you to count and breathe at your own pace. Taking in breath for 4 counts, really deepening that inhalation, taking in as much breath feels comfortable for you, and holding it for 7 counts. Perhaps observing noticing what that feels like to hold this internal breath retention. In yoga, it's called kumbhak, as I was taught it. So holding that in, sometimes you might be able to notice some energy moving around. And exhale out slowly and deeply, 8 counts, doubling the length of our inhalation. Oftentimes your lungs need longer to exhale to really release it all than the inhalation. So giving your body this gift, this medicine of deep breathing. And our third round, once again, breathing in for 4 counts. Holding your breath for 7. Exhaling out for 8. Deep, deep exhalation here. Releasing your hands, releasing the 4, 7, 8 breath. I invite you to return to your natural breath. Become aware and observe, noticing what that feels like. Has there been any change? Do you notice a difference? Not assigning it as good or bad, just noticing where you are right now in this moment. And I invite you now to imagine and envision a grounding cord coming up from the earth, connecting with the base of your spine. If you're seated, you might want to ensure your feet are planted firmly on the ground. If you're reclined or laying down, just knowing that you are supported by the surface beneath you, but allowing that grounding cord to connect with the base of your spine. You can make this as narrow or as wide as you like. You can set it to a neutral green or a sage color. Use this as some added support for us as we move into our next practice, our body scan. So either using your mind's eye, or you can use your hands. I invite you to start at the crown of your head. Begin to draw your hands or your mind's eye down over the front side of your body. Using this as another tool for awareness and observation. Noticing if there's any sensations, any differences in sensations. Perhaps noticing any heaviness, added weight, any gunk, maybe stress from your week. Just moving it down along the front side of your body, through the legs, down and out through the feet, towards the earth for transformation. still being supported by our grounding cord. We'll do this again. As you're ready, once again, drawing your hands to the crown of your head, bringing the hands down over the front side of the body. Noticing, sensing, are there any places in particular that stand out? Moving the hands down, all the way down, over the thighs, the knees, the shins, down to the feet. And as we move into this third round, this time I invite you to identify one area in particular that really stood out to you, where there might have been some heaviness, some changes in sensation. We're going to spend a few minutes over this area of our body. So with our hands, if you'd like to imagine perhaps a healing gold light emanating out from the energy centers in your hands, I invite you to place your hands over that area of the body. And we'll rest and hold here for 3 minutes. I'll set a timer. So really sending ourselves some tender love and care, some TLC. Giving this part of our body some additional support. Continuing to breathe as you hold space for yourself. Collectively, let's take a deep breath in through the nose Exhale, side out. I invite you to draw your hands further down the body once more, or perhaps just shake them out, imagining releasing once again any energy, perhaps any of that sensation that you felt. Maybe even envision it joining in with that grounding cord at the base of your spine. And as you release that energy, imagine the grounding cord releasing as well. So taking all of what you've released and let go of back into the earth for transformation, for recycling. And as you're ready, I invite you to begin to deepen your breath. Make any small, gentle movements in your fingers, in your toes. Any small, gentle movements in your wrist and your ankles. Any gentle stretches that you need. And bringing your hands, your left hand to over your heart, your right hand on top. And taking this moment before we conclude to send gratitude to yourself. Sending gratitude for you showing up within this community. And most importantly, for you taking time for you to learn and to do a little bit of relaxation and mindfulness for yourself. We should always be grateful for the time spent on ourselves. Because when we do this work, we're better able to show up in our place in the world. So, thank you all for letting me guide you. As you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes as we come back together.
Yes, thank you, Catherine.
You're very welcome.
I think you put my computer in a state of deep freeze. It took forever to come out of it. Or maybe our computer's in sync, so they're
Yes, they know it's a Friday.
Well, thank you, everybody. We'll see you next Friday. Don't get too wet, but not sure it's possible. It's really going to be wet and cold. So, yeah.
So, Misha, next week we're going to have Sharon Demarco, MD, who's the medical director of the War-Related Illness and Injury Study Center at DC's VA Medical Center. And she's also a physician at the GW Center for Integrative Medicine.
Yep.
And the always fabulous Ashley Drapeau, PAC, LAC, GW Resiliency and Wellbeing Center will be with us to do the mind body practice. Now, just a reminder, everyone, we will be taking Memorial Day weekend off because we all need rest, relaxation, and recharge.
Very good.
Janet, can I ask a question? How do I save the chat? There was a way to save the chat.
I don't know if you can. I will, and I'll upload it to the share folder.
So let me try. Next to the chat, like where the chat is, on the right, there should be this button with the 3 dots.
It doesn't work on these meetings.
No, it doesn't work on mine. Okay, thank you.
It doesn't. It works generally, but it's disabled in some fashion for this meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't worry.
Okay.
I'll
Well, okay, thank you. Thank you.
the post
Sure.
event email will include a link to the chat.
Okay.
So just look out for the email.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye
Oh,
everyone.
before
Bye.
everybody goes,
Whoop.
1 second, before everybody goes. Cynthia just sent me a message reminding that if anybody else is still interested in MBSR, the class is starting tomorrow. So it's just go to CHWCIM, click on MBSR, click on classes, click on MBSR. And actually, let me put that in, I guess, just so that we have it. But it's not too late to register, and it's a free. Tomorrow class is free, so it's a introductory class. So if you're still interested, you've never been MBSR, it's mindfulness-based stress reduction program that is quite evidence. So I'm putting the link in, although again, I don't know if you can immediately save it. But go to gwcam.com, go under services, under classes. You should find it quickly.
And
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye,